Hi, I'm Stephen Tallamy, and in this video I wanted to share some of my tips for delivering your creative output to others. Now, some of you may know I'm one of the team behind Piano Book, and so I'm quite used to receiving different types of deliveries from musicians, be those sample packs or demonstrations, or also when we've had our large collaboration pieces. So I've got some insight into what it's like to receive deliveries from musicians. I also write music for production libraries and have delivered music through to independent films, and so I've got some idea of the mistakes I've made when I've delivered things to others. So these are 10 quick tips of mine to help you deliver your music more successfully. So my first tip is to read the brief. Hopefully, if you're working with other people, they will have given you some sort of written brief. That could be from a production library. They might have written down the sort of instrumentation they're looking for, the kind of arrangement, maybe the type of build that it needs. These are all really important things. So try to make sure you read what is the brief. If you're submitting to Piano Book, there's a whole brief on how to make a sample instrument. If you're sending things into, one of these distribution libraries, they will also have some information about how your track should be structured. Take the time to read it in detail. There'll be a lot of clues in there. There may be reference tracks, which will give you a good clue to the sound quality, the kind of thing that you are going to need to deliver onwards. So do read the brief. Tip number 2 is to check the technical specifications. So hopefully this will be in the brief, but it might be a separate thing. Find out exactly what tech specs you need to do. Is it in 24-bit? Is it 16-bit, 32-bit? Is it a WAV file or MP3s? Find out exactly the technical details of what you need to deliver and make sure that you are delivering them. And check as you render things out, check that they are definitely meeting those technical specifications. They're really, really important, particularly from a library perspective or any kind of collaboration, because people are going to try and line up a whole bunch of things. And if something's off, it can really throw out the process. Tip number 3 is naming conventions. Quite likely you will have some sort of naming convention you need to follow. This is because, if you're working with a library or if you're doing a large collaboration project, you really need to know what is the file, where it's come from, what version it's on. So usually there'll be some sort of naming convention that combines those things: the name of the track, the composer, what version it is, what date it was. All of that is really, really useful information that when the people who are receiving your track get it, they will have a lot of data just there from that file name. Tip number 4 is check for any kind of rendering options you need to have. So quite often you might get something like a sync plop, a little bleep that starts off your track. This can be really helpful to give confidence to the people receiving your delivery that it is starting at the right time. But there might be some other recording options as well, how much space they need at the beginning or the end of the track. So there might be an amount of silence that's preferred. Maybe it's only a short amount of silence or a large amount of silence. Go and check what are the things that they need within the recording itself. Tip 5 is actually listen to the exact thing that you're delivering. So if you're bouncing it down, make sure you listen back to the thing that you've bounced down. You might be doing an offline render or something else, but you never know whether something in your process by the time you deliver it is going to cause a problem. You might end up unexpectedly having a glitch in the audio because maybe your CPU is running hot on a reverb plugin. So definitely listen to the track that you are about to deliver. So tip number 6 is to send it to a friend. And this can be really helpful. Something might be working great on your computer, on your environment, but you send it to somebody else and it just doesn't work. This can be particularly true for, say, sample libraries in Kontakt, where perhaps you've saved it with absolute paths, so it's referencing exactly on your file system where those samples are, and you send it to someone else and it just won't work. Or perhaps you've created it on a Mac, you need to get someone to check it on a PC. This can be less of an issue with maybe audio files because they're usually universally more compatible. But again, it's sometimes just a good idea to find someone friendly to send it to before you deliver it to your end destination. Tip number 7 is to deliver early. And this might fly in the face of, a natural instinct to leave it right up to the deadline and then deliver it. But you really don't know what's going to happen at that very end. You might find that you have an internet outage and you're not able to send your files. you might find there's all sorts of issues. You might send it over and then get comments back on, oh, it's corrupted or something's not working. If you're right up against the deadline, you have very little time to go and fix those things. So I really encourage you to try to beat the deadline. Maybe set yourself your own deadline that you want to deliver it ahead of the actual official one, and then try to hit that deadline and get it in a little bit early. Tip number 8 is to recheck the brief. It might have been quite some time from the initial point of reading through the brief and then you writing it and then eventually delivering it that you might have missed something else. So it's always worth just going back, checking all of the details of what you were supposed to write, how it was supposed to be formatted. Just give it one more check over. Tip number 9 is wait a day. So when you've written a track, you'll be all enthusiastic, you'll have a lot of energy around it, you'll be excited to get it onto somebody else. Wait a day. Come back the next day, have another listen to it. You never know, because there's sometimes if you're too eager to send it off, you might end up regretting it the day later. Oh, if only I'd done this little tweak, or there's just this one thing. If you can, wait a day, which goes back to the previous tips of delivering early. Give yourself that extra time so you can wait a day. And tip 10 is have empathy with the person you are delivering this to. In all likelihood, they're getting a lot of tracks sent in. If they're a production library, or if they've got lots of cues coming in, or they've got lots of other audio, or if they're a sample library, they will have a lot of things coming into them. And so please do have empathy with them, because if things come in with different naming conventions, things don't meet the specifications, it can really throw them off because they've got a lot to deal with. And so if you can have empathy, if you can go that extra mile to go with the best possible delivery you can do, it means that your delivery won't be one that they're going, oh, not this again, not this one wrong, they've got this wrong. So please take a little bit more time with your delivery and have a bit of empathy for the person you're delivering it to give them the best possible delivery you can give. If you have any tips for music delivery or any mistakes you've made that you've learned from, please leave them in a comment below. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.